Have you ever wondered, is my eco management a problem? No. No, they should have hosted the game with double resources. Shame! Shame on you! Shame on me, because I stall constantly, but we're talking about solving your problems, not mine. So shame! How exactly do you balance that spending? Supreme Commander economy is a relationship between three numbers: mass, energy, and build power. Mass is gotten from extractors, wrecks, the very rocks and trees around you as you execute an ecological disaster on every planet you touch. This income requires a bit of practice to get a feel for, but in the early game, things are pretty simple to calculate.
The kids are running, the kids are coming for you.
Most maps give you 4 starting mass extractors, which is enough to run 2 factories. You can typically start with 3 to 4 though, because a couple of engineers reclaiming and your expansion mexes will make up the balance. Rule of thumb is that you want to have 1 to 2 more factories than your mexes can support if you're playing for tier 1 spam. Push this concept out to tier 2 and later, numbers, they get a little bit more complicated, but there are some guidelines you can keep in mind. The factories will tell you how much mass they're pulling, and you can balance that against the mass you have. You generally want to be spending about 5 to 10% more mass than you have as income, and make up the difference in reclaim. Finally, if you get caught in a hard stall, prioritize through build power distribution or pausing to get the most important things out first. So what about the other 2 points on that triangle? Power stall is effectively the same as wasting mass, since your mexes don't work. That is very, very bad. Bad power stall. Bad. You always want to be preemptively building a small amount of excess power, but not too much. Those P-gens could be tanks. To take our early game example, you need 5 P-gens or 1 hydro to run 2 land factories, and then 1 additional power generator per land fac and 3 per air fac to break even. Throw in an extra every few factories and you're golden. If you're wanting to get something power intensive, sometimes it can be better to slowly fill in energy storage with a little bit of extra power generators than to build 10 extras. Bonus fact, 2 engineers building factories to 1 engineer building power works out to the proper ratio for each other. Lastly, that pesky build power point does need to be addressed. How many engineers and factories do you need? Well, enough to spend your mass plus about 10%. And, well, however much you need to reclaim. Yeah, that isn't super precise, but games be varied, yo. You need enough engineers to not overflow when you bite into extra reclaim, but too many engineers, you could have had more tanks. You need enough to reclaim on the front lines, but so many you can't spend mass or lose that front? Should have made tanks. Factories are important, but stalling factories, you guessed it, those could have been tanks. At the end of the day, the ideal situation is to be fluctuating in the middle of both mass and power storage with no stall and no overflow, while having all engineers and factories running, building, or reclaiming. Nobody can accomplish that all game, every game though. So settle for this. Build a couple more engineers than you think you need, a tad more power than you're using, and enough factories to be a little negative on mass, and you should be good. Now that you're ready to wreck some face with your hyper-optimized builds, how about wrecking those buttons under the video to bump this vid out to more people? Likes and subs help a ton, but if you want to go the extra mile by gifting me some mass, you can become a channel member on YouTube, sub on Twitch, for free if you're a Prime member, or support directly through Patreon. Those who do, well, you might see yourselves mining the reclaim quarries in a video thanks to the naming mod.